Hello, welcome to Plenty. I'm really excited to introduce you to our guest today. Her name is Jen Gottlieb, and she is the best-selling author of the book, Be Seen. She has had a long career in the public eye, first as a Broadway actress and then on the VH1 show, That Metal Show, for 5 years. And then she got started in her entrepreneurial journey as a personal trainer and now is the co-founder of Super Connector Media. And her work has been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, Goop, and their company has been named one of Inc. 5000's top growing private companies. Jen and I got to sit down and talk about how to actually let yourself be seen, like not be seen in terms of visibility and Instagram numbers, but how to actually let the real you be seen and why that's actually important to your brand. We also get into how she manifested her incredible husband. She did that in a very intentional way, and it's a super fun story that you can use. It's a strategy you can use to manifest anything that you desire. We talk about money. We talk about how to connect with people that you want to connect with in an organic, non-sleazy way, and so much more. So if you are wanting to grow your visibility and be seen for real, this is an episode for you. Listen in and enjoy. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups. Please note that the opinions and perspectives of guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, new neighbor.
I feel very at home.
I'm so happy you're here. So I stayed up way too late reading your book. And what I love about Be Seen is that it's a really beautiful combination between, quite rich inner excavation about like what it means to be human and also very practical tips to grow a brand and grow visibility. It is pretty rare to have both of those two things combined in one book that's actually interesting to read. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That was my goal. I was like, I cannot write a branding business book without the personal development and like that side of it.
Yeah.
But I also want my stories. And I was like, can I make it all? Can it be and?
100%.
And that's what I tried to do. So the fact that you're saying that.
It really works. And it's really fun to read. And I kept being like, okay, Kate, you need to go to bed. And I was like, but I'm also really interested to know. Like, I just kept going. And I'm an avid reader and like, I don't like all books, I'll be honest. So I really liked yours.
Thank you.
So, well done. I want to know, I know that you and Chris have your company, Super Connector Media, and it is really focused on obviously helping people grow visibility and brands, but your not so well kept secret is that it really is about personal development.
Yeah.
And so tell me, why is it important to be on a, like, I don't know how you, like, I mean, I guess a personal development journey, but like, why is it important to do that healing work as you grow your visibility? How are the two related, and what comes up for your clients most commonly around the personal development work?
Yeah. So the only reason that I can even speak to this is because I was doing it all wrong for a very long time. And when you read the book, and you obviously read the beginning of it, so you know that I was on this TV show about heavy metal music for like 5 years of my life, where my brand was completely the opposite of who I really was. And so I was very visible. I was very seen. But this brand and this persona and this character that I had to create for this show started just blending into my online presence, and social media started to become a thing at that time. And it's like, oh, I'm this heavy metal girl. And I'm not Sorry guys, spoiler, like I never liked heavy metal music. I'm not into heavy metal music, but I was really good actress and really good at playing this character. And I thought that that's what I needed to be in order for people to like me and pick me and hire me and all of the things, all of my worthiness wrapped up in this, you need to be a heavy metal girl.
Yeah.
So my personal development, if you want to just call it that, like or connectivity with myself and my true self and who I really was completely disconnected from everything that I was putting out there. And so it made me totally, I guess stuck is the word, in every way, shape, and form. I wasn't creating content that really said who I was. I was making stuff up and like posting things that couldn't have been more out of alignment from who I really was. And it was attracting the entirely wrong audience. So before I knew it, I had built this Instagram following, Facebook following, Twitter following, whatever, of all these people that thought that I was somebody that I wasn't. And when you're living a lie, first of all, it's exhausting. I was exhausted because it's hard to keep that up, especially when it's not really you. And second, nothing flows. The energy flows. The energy's stuck. It's not you. People can see that it's not really you. You're disconnected from it. And I see that today with people building their brands online. If you don't know who you really are and you are not showing up as you, the content doesn't flow. It's hard to think about what to talk about because you have to create, it's like putting that square peg into that round hole kind of a thing. And people can sense that and they can see it. And that's why a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and they're like, Jen, I'm stuck. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to create. I'm not consistent. I post for a few days and then I stop. I'm like, if you just show up as you and you document your life and you are open and honest with your audience and you just allow yourself to be your niche instead of creating all of these, it has to be this way or it has to be that way, everything will flow and it'll be easy because we don't get stuck when we're just being ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why the whole book starts off with seeing you.
You start the book with a really interesting story where you went into this psychic in the West Village and she told you something that really pissed you off. So can you share what that was? Can you just tell that story? It was very compelling and I think relatable.
It's such a crazy story because I had never gone to psychics before this. And I was scared of psychics. Honestly, it's like a fear of mine because I'm so a believer in the law of attraction and manifesting. And so I had this weird fear that if someone told me something,
you would bring it to fruition.
I would accidentally manifest it because I would be worried about it all the time. So I'm like, just stay away from me. Don't tell me anything I don't want to hear. Which now that I look back is like kind of stupid. I would see a psychic now, but whatever, it is what it is. It was then. So I remember I was feeling that kind of stuckness that we were just talking about in my life. And this was after that metal show. This was when I was an entrepreneur. Chris and I had Super Connector Media and I was building this brand, but it just felt like it was not a standstill. It felt like it wasn't growing. And I knew I was posting a lot of like pictures with a caption. And I was being seen, but I wasn't being seen. Like I wasn't really allowing people in at that time. It was like there was a little wall up, not a huge one like there was with that metal show, but a little one. And we're going for this walk, my husband and I, downtown in the West Village, because I was just having a bad day. I was feeling off. And he's like, why don't we just go into this psychic, like, a little psychic hole in the wall office in the middle of the West Village in New York. And I'm like, no, I'm not going in there. And he's like, let's just do it. It'll be really fun. Screw it. Whatever. Let's do it. Why not? I had that moment where I was like, what do I have to lose? So we go in and this lady knows nothing about me. She asks me 0 questions. We sit down and she pulls out these cards and she looks at me and she's like, you're going to be unbelievably successful on a global scale, but here's what's coming to me. You need to be seen. And I'm like, lady, I'm so seen. Like, look at, I had a course called the Be Seen Accelerator at that time. I was like, I teach people how to be seen. I own a PR agency. That was part of our business. Like, we teach people how to be seen. You are nuts. This is so wrong. She's like, no, you're not being seen. Be seen, be seen, be seen. And she just kept saying it. And I'm like, oh my God. And I actually got upset. And I think it was because I was resisting something that was really there.
Yeah.
We leave. I try to go to sleep that night. I can't sleep. Her words are just resonating inside of my brain and my body. And I'm like, oh my God, she's so right. I'm trying to be too perfect. I'm trying to be too structured. I'm trying to put off still a persona of me that's not completely me. I'm not connecting. I got to do something. And I woke up and I looked at Chris and I was like, I'm going to write a book. I'm doing it because the writing of the book would force me to put myself out there in a way that I had never done in my life.
Wow.
And the title of the book was not Be Seen, by the way. So let's just back up a little bit because this is crazy
interesting.
because this was not what made me name the book Be Seen. This is actually the juiciest part of the story. So I'm a very fast action taker. So the second that I decided I was going to write a book, I started the process right away. We ended up creating an entire proposal with a different title. The title was Super Connector, which is the name of my company, but I didn't really resonate with that title because Chris is more of the Super Connector and it just didn't feel right. But I was at a mastermind, little tiny gathering with Marie Forleo, Gabby Bernstein, Chris Carr, and Amy Porterfield. And we're all sitting together at Soho House. And we were far along on the journey of the book. It was basically like done. Like Hay House had given me like my advance and I was writing it and it had the title Super Connector. And we're all going around and sharing about our books. And they're like, what's the name of your book, Jen? And I'm like, Super Connector. And Gabby says to me, she's like, that's not the name of your book. And I'm like, I know it's not the name of my book. I don't like it, but it is what it is. They bought this proposal. And she goes, Jen, what do you help people do? And I'm like, well, I help people be seen. And she goes, that's the name of your book. And I write it down and then oh my God, the psychic.
Yeah.
Be seen, be seen, be seen. And I ran home. I emailed Hay House. I was like, we have to change the name. It has to be Seen.
Yeah.
And they were like, of course it's Be Seen. Is that not crazy?
So good. It's so good. And that's also what's great about working with Hay House. They get the deeper, energetic threads of everything.
They got it.
That's incredible. So for you, backing up to when you were on that metal show, backing up to the moment where you shared that real rift between your public persona and what was going on behind the scenes. And this is so incredibly common. Not just with people who have a large, social media following or are on television, but with everybody. The way that society has conditioned us to think that we have to be a certain way on the outside and that we can't show what's really going on behind the scenes, that's normal, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious for you, what block or blocks did you have to encounter as you let more and more of the real Jen be seen? And what came up for you? What were you afraid of? And how did you work through that? Knowing that it's an ongoing journey. This isn't one and done.
It is such an ongoing journey. But there were so many fears that consistently came up. And I think at the beginning it really was, I don't know where this came from. And now that I'm in a lot of therapy and I look back to my childhood, I think that there was a lot of stuff around the way that I looked growing up. I remember, and I'm very close with my grandmother. She's the most amazing woman in the world. She's 92 years old and I call her Glamma. She's very glamorous. But she was very into what I looked like physically and really always if I looked good, everybody look at Jenny. She's she looks so beautiful. Oh, don't look at her right now. She doesn't have any makeup on. There were things that she said that she didn't realize she was doing that made me very, very self-conscious about the way that I looked. So not having a full face of makeup on, not looking perfect, physically online really held me back. And the reason I'm sharing this very openly, I always tell it like it is. I think if I was feeling that way, I know that there's a lot of other women that feel this way too. And just not too recently, but maybe I think I started this a year and a half ago when I was mid writing this book. I was here's the challenge that I'm going to give myself. And I started going live on social media every morning with no makeup on, putting my makeup on. And the reason that I did that was because I truly believe that when you do the thing that you're afraid to do, you take away the power that the fear has over you. And I knew that there was this massive block around me making video and creating and being seen and being out there because I felt like I always had to look perfect. Mm-hmm. And like when you scroll your Instagram feed and you see everybody looks perfect, that's because they're all face tuning and perfecting and filtering their photos. They just are, and that's okay. And that's the world that we live in today. But I'm my whole goal is to be seen. I'm writing a book about being seen. I have to get more comfortable being seen. Yeah. And not just being seen with no makeup on, but being seen not knowing what the hell I'm talking about, because I go live and I answer people's questions while I put my makeup on with this headband on my head. And I started doing this, and it was the scariest thing that I had ever done when I first started. But let me tell you, this was an unbelievable example of how confidence is built over time. and how you can become more confident the more that you do the hard thing. Because every single time I did it, it got a little bit easier. Every single time. Like the first time it was hard, the second time it was hard, the third time, and sometimes it still gets a little hard when I just don't feel like showing up.
Yeah.
But now it is my responsibility to go live every day. I can't wait for it because now I've built this community of people that show up every morning. They love it. I've been able to show them who I really am. My community, my followers, like everything has just become more connected, and I don't give a shit anymore.
Right.
I used to care so much, but because now I practice, just like no makeup on, here I am, this is it. Oh, nothing bad happened. In fact,
Nothing
I
bad happened.
connected
Right.
deeper with
like
people.
good things happened.
Good things happened. You have to do it to prove to yourself that that is what it is. It's unbelievably scary, but that is what helped me overcome that.
Yeah.
And I still do it. I did it this morning, every day.
Only on weekdays or also on weekends?
Monday through Friday.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. I give myself a break. I don't wear makeup on Saturdays and Sundays. I try not to.
It's also good to give your skin a break.
Exactly. Exactly. That's most of the reason.
Well, it just is. Okay, so one of the tips you gave in your book, I really appreciated, and it was this tip about if you're feeling like, so let me back up. I get really scared going into rooms of a lot of people when I don't know anybody. Yeah. Like going to an event alone is so terrifying. And people don't expect this about me, but I do have some social anxiety. Like if I know a few people, I'm fine. But like one time Mike and I went to a wedding where I only knew the bride and groom, and I was going with my husband. So like one might assume I would be fine. And he was like, I cannot believe your level of fear walking into this party. He was just like, wow, I had no idea. So I really liked your tip, and I've worked on it over the years, but I really liked your tip about embodying your alter ego. Mm-hmm. So can you first tell about that? But then I have a second question about it that I wanted to clarify. So what like talk about when it might serve us to be our alter ego, and when you've used that in your own life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my friend Todd Herman, do you know Todd? Todd Herman?
Not personally, but I know.
Okay. He wrote the book, The Alter Ego Effect. And I loved that book because it really like proved to me the science behind it. Cause I didn't know the science. I was like, oh, I'm just going to pretend that I'm Jen 2.0 or like 2.0 version of myself. So there's so many different ways to create an alter ego. And there's so many, and if you read Todd's book, like athletes do it all the time and they have like triggers and like little things that they do with like their socks and their bracelets. There's all kinds of things. But for me, when I go into networking events, because I'm also actually an introvert and I don't love doing that. I don't love being in rooms full of people. Same. I have a lot of little tricks that I do and they're all in the book. But this one, what I'll do sometimes is I will just tap into that future version of me. Sometimes there's a tip in the book also called Wonder Walks. Like I'll go for a wonder walk as like the future Jen. So I'll put on a song that either makes me feel like so in the pocket, like so confident. Like I can really tap into like the actual physicality of what super confident Jen feels like. So maybe it's the Jen that like when I'm on stage, I feel so confident. I don't feel so confident in a room full of people, but on stage, like I'm Jen 2.0. And we all have that version of ourselves. Maybe it's when you're with your kids. Maybe it's when you're with your favorite family member or your best friend, or maybe it's when you're with clients or you're doing the thing that you're the best at. If you can channel that energy, because we don't necessarily get nervous or even really tired or burnt out when we're doing the thing that we love the most.
Totally.
Like when I could be on stage for literally 24 hours without stopping, I'll get tired after. But when I'm on the stage, forget it. I'm good. I'm confident. I'm in flow. I'm Jen 2.0. And so if I can get into that, that's like my alter ego. And I'll put on, so usually I like to use my senses to do that. So whether that's smell or taste or sound, for me, a lot of the times it's music because that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah. I'll put on a song, I'll dance around, I'll move my body, I'll get physical, and I'll just be Jen 2.0. And I'll try to embody that the whole time. It doesn't always work. And sometimes I will be embodying Jen 2.0 right when I walk up to the door, and then she checks out, and then I walk in, and then I have to use the other tips, and it is what it is. Yeah. But it definitely helps me get there. And I'll tell you something about being an introvert and going to events. I never want to go, but I'm always happy I went.
Always.
So I just got to get myself there. That's it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. So when I was reading that, I was curious. What do you see as the differences between embodying your alter ego and really allowing yourself to be seen as the real you. Because I was reading it and I was like, are those two things asynchronous? Are they like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how do we embody our alter ego and also allow ourselves to be seen as the real us at the same time?
This is what I think. And I think it's a personal opinion, but I believe, and within myself, I can only speak for myself. I know that I have so many different facets of myself, of my true self, of who I really am. Sometimes I want to be ultra feminine and that's how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm more into my masculine. Sometimes I'm more just really serious. And sometimes they're all parts of Jen. It's not like, oh, I'm playing heavy metal Jen and I'm teasing up my hair and I'm like, I really like Metallica and like I'm playing a character. That's not a version of me. But there are different versions of me that are real versions of me. That was like a part that I was playing. It was pretend. So I think that for me, I want to just embrace every different version of Jen that there is and allow that to come through in whenever she needs to come through. And I guess that's my best answer for you. And your alter ego is one of those facets of you.
Yeah. And all of them do have a function and a purpose. And all of our different facets are valuable. And we can let them all. And you know, like you said, like we all get to decide what we're going to portray and which parts of us get to be public and which ones really get to be private. And I'm curious, as someone who has grown on social media a lot, who mentors people around that, what do you share with people who are afraid of sharing too much and losing their sense of privacy and the like, you know, I don't want to, and I will be honest, this has come up for me and I've toggled, I mean, I've been around for a while. So like I've toggled between all sorts of places on the spectrum of like, we're sharing moment to moment. We're doing tons of behind the scenes. And then I'm just like, I really want my life to be my own. I don't want to ever share anything with anyone, you know? And so what do you have to say to people who are either afraid from a security perspective? Because that actually does come up a lot.
For sure.
I've never felt that way, but I really get it. Maybe I should. Or
I always think that sometimes. I'm like, oh, maybe I should.
Should I be worried? I should
about
maybe. I don't know.
I don't
Anyway,
know.
I'm not. And then secondly, just really from a like, I don't want to be thinking about my life in terms of content all the time.
Okay, so there's not one right or wrong way to do anything. So you don't have to show your life on social media. I know very big social media celebrities and influencers. Look at Gary Vee. He doesn't share anything about his personal life. You will never see his children. You will never see him with his fiance. You don't see anything. And that's his choice. And he's a very popular brand, shares a lot of things about himself and his business and everything that he does, and is creating content 24/7. Nothing about his personal life. So you can make that decision for yourself. And here's the cool thing about life. You can evolve, you can change your mind. I'm obsessed with the fact that you just said that sometimes I want to really share everything and sometimes I don't. Guess what? Your personal brand is personal. And as humans, people, we evolve, we change, we grow. It doesn't have to be the same all the time, nor do we have to do what one person told us is the right way to do it, because there's no right or wrong way. It's always evolving, it's always changing. So that would be the first thing that I say. If you don't want to show your personal life on social media, you absolutely don't have to. Would it help your audience to relate to you and connect with you and all those things? Probably, but everybody has a different goal on social media. So really think, what is my specific goal here? What am I doing? Because if your goal is to build your agency, maybe you don't have to show all the pictures of your family. If your goal is to become a blogger and an influencer and a lifestyle influencer, and you want to create products and things like that are based on your life, maybe it would behoove you to show your kids and your family, but you can do it at whatever level you want to. It is all based around your goals and your comfort level. There's another very important chapter of the book that I added last minute that I was like, this has to be in the book. And that is when not to be seen.
That was a good one.
Because there are a lot of people online, and we all know them, that are just, it's like the vulnerability porn. It's like a little too much. It's like being vulnerable just to be vulnerable. And we all know them. Like you open it up and they're hysterically crying about something that is so fresh and in the moment and happening. And you're just like, are you okay? And you just feel bad for them. If you are sharing online because you want to be known as either an enthusiast or an expert or giving advice or providing value, then it does take your power away to be sharing in the moment, really like open wound situations. So what I tell people to think about, Again, there's no right or wrong way. Do whatever you want. But think about this before you share. Is the wound opened or closed, right? If it's an open wound, go try to stop the bleeding on your own. Work with your friends and family in private. It's still open. It's bleeding. It's fresh. Like you might say things you don't want to say. Like it's there. You need to take care of yourself. But once it's a scar and it's closed and it's like, boom, my battle wound, I've learned from this. And you can come at it from a place of, here's what I learned. This happened. Now I got a scar to prove that I am better and stronger than ever. And I can come now share my reflections of that and be seen and tell my story from a strong, empowered, intentional place. I always, always, always tell people, and myself included, like, I'm like, pause, Jen. Is that wound open or closed? Share when it's closed. And I tell my followers often, like, because I'm going live every day. So,
sometimes there's going to be stuff going on that it's like very fresh that
there has been
want to talk about, but like, you're going to need to.
So how do I be authentic within that?
Right.
So I've had to navigate that. And the best way for me is I talk about the emotions that I'm experiencing, but I don't talk about the situation that's happening. So I'm like, guess what? I had a shit day today. Like something's going on. I can't talk about it yet. I will one day. Yeah. One day I'll know why I needed to go through this and I'll talk about it. But right now I'll just talk about the fact that if you're going through something that feels like this, and this, you're not alone. That's it.
Yeah.
Move on.
It is very helpful. It is very helpful because the way that social media is set up, the way that anything about a public persona is set up, and this has been, since the dawn of time, not just social media, we just have so much more access and so much more information now. There's this assumption that we have that the more visible people are, or the more successful people are, the less problems they have. And so, that's not true. and they're just different problems. They are changed. Like everyone's human at every, and you talked about, this is a great part about like everybody poops. So talk about everybody poops and how you use that in your own life.
Yeah. Okay. So every time, and this goes back to comparison. So I find myself, and this is a topic I'm talking about a lot lately because I know that it holds people back in a really big way. They're comparing to themselves or their projects or their business or their family or their house or whatever it is to other people's highlight reels on social media, what they're seeing. So the first thing that we need to be aware of about that is what you're seeing is the filtered 80th picture that they took of the day, like perfect celebration moment of that time, like times 20 online. When they press post, it is the best shot that they took out of the 80, okay? And it's filtered and it's got a caption on it that's probably a little bit exaggerated. And that's not everybody, but that's for the most part. And that's okay. That's what social media is for. Showcasing your wins, telling your story. It's your online resume. Share it however you want. I don't care. That's fine. We need to scroll with caution. And what I see is that people are scrolling and they're saying, oh my God, 5 minutes ago, I loved my podcast. I loved my business. I just started it. I'm so proud of myself. And then they see someone that's been doing that thing for 10 years and they're at a totally different level and they've had a million zillion failures that they didn't talk about, but they only see this big celebration moment that they're sharing. And then all of a sudden the person that was looking at it is like, I suck. My podcast isn't that successful. My business isn't that successful. And you're comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20 or finished version.
Yeah.
And it's such an important reminder to know that, first of all, you didn't see all the failures and all the hard work that went into that one photo or post or accomplishment or win or whatever. You didn't see all the times that woman, I know my friends had to go through IVF like 50 times, not 50, that's a big number, but a lot of times before they gave birth to the baby.
I'm sure it feels like 50 times.
You don't see the behind the scenes. Right. And so just to remember that people are people are people. If you're experiencing hard times, you just can't get it right. You're failing. You're like, things are happening in your life. Life gets lifey. You've got traumatic experience happening. Everybody is a human too, and everybody poops. Kim Kardashian, she looks like she's got online. If you go to her page, she looks like she doesn't poop. I guarantee you she does. And I hate to use that example, but everybody, we all get up in the morning and put up our pants and get dressed.
Gotta keep your digestion regular.
You're like, all right, I'm going to ask the next question to get her off of this topic.
Everybody should be pooping.
This
At
is the
least
one
once a day. I'm sure we'll have a digestion expert we could talk more about poop.
Yes, that's not me.
But no, it is really important to just remember, humans are humans. And when we find ourselves in comparison, Are there any practical tips that you give your clients to kind of keep their eyes on their own paper so that they're not sucking their energy by getting all twirled out about comparing themselves to somebody else's highlight reel?
So here's what I started doing just recently, and I can talk about it now because I don't talk about things until I know that they work.
Okay.
I've been doing this for long enough and it has worked to know like, oh wait, shit, that worked. And it worked. I almost overcorrected. I'll tell you what it is in a second because now it's like I kind of have a little bit of an issue. But what I found for myself is this is what would happen to me. I would, I don't know, open up my Instagram to do a post or check my DMs or maybe open up my phone to order something on Amazon. And without even realizing it, my thumb goes to Instagram.
Totally.
And then 15 minutes later, I didn't even realize I was doing it. I had no clue I was scrolling. And 15 minutes later, I feel like shit. First, I don't even know. Sometimes it's subconscious. I don't even know why I don't feel good. But you're just looking at like you're comparing. And this is me. This might not be everybody that's listening, but maybe it'll relate to some people. And so I knew that that was wasting a lot of time and energy, and I needed to stop it. And I was like, this is something that's holding me back in my life. And how do I stop this? So what I started to do is, what I realized is I want to make social media work for me, and I want to be intentional every time I open it. I don't want it to do me. I want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I love social media and it's amazing on so many levels. It's great if you're intentional with it, but if you allow it to just take you down the rabbit hole and start comparing yourself to other people just by scrolling and allowing the algorithm to feed you whatever it wants to feed you, then you can slip down a really slippery slope. So what I started doing, my goal was to stop scrolling. Okay, it doesn't mean stop using social. I want to use social. I want to intentionally go to Kate's page and look at Kate's photo and comment and say, what's up? Love you, Kate. Like, great picture. And then I want to close it.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't want to do this. So every time I caught myself doing it, I would just do this one practice where I would say, I don't scroll, and put it down. So the trigger was, I don't scroll, put the phone down. Every time I say I don't scroll. So sometimes I wouldn't catch myself for about 5 minutes. And then I'd be like, oh shit, I don't scroll, down. Now it's like 2 seconds. I pick it up, I don't scroll. Now I don't even pick it up.
Right.
So what's happened is fantastic. I've noticed I'm a happier person overall because I'm focused on me. I'm focused on what am I creating.
Yes.
I'm creating more content. I'm getting more done because I'm not wasting so much time. And I'm actually using social media intentionally. So I'm connecting with people. I'm creating stuff. I'm responding to DMs instead of mindlessly scrolling. But here's how I overcorrected because now I don't know what's going on.
Totally.
So I need to fix that problem.
But it's such I have done something similar and it's really working, and I'm kind of blissfully knowing less of what's going on. And then, like really having an intentional group of people that I'm checking in with and like going to see what they're doing specifically instead of waiting for whoever comes up in the algorithm. And you shared, and I've done something similar in the past, about how to be intentional with the relationships that you're wanting to grow and wanting to cultivate. So how have you over time identified who you want to connect with and really fostered those connections in an organic, sort of non-transactional way? And what are some tips for that? Because I'm sure at this point in your career, you've had this happen, and I've had it happen for decades. Like, you can feel when somebody is making a connection because they want something, and it feels really icky.
Yep.
And I like really like people, so I'm pretty like, great, like that. Like, I'm a bit of a golden retriever, and I just am. But I also like have gotten burned, from that. And so, what are your recommendations around connecting with people specifically who you've identified in a way that feels really good to both people?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do this. There's a lot of wrong ways to do it. And
totally.
Yeah, and we can talk about those. But I'll talk about some of the ways that I've done it and knowing that like it wasn't that there are specific people that I really wanted to connect with just because I was an epic uber fan of them and learned so much from them. And I'm like, I want to know this person because I want to be their friend. I feel like I'm their friend. And in my mind, like Gabby, who wrote the foreword to my book, was one of those people. Like I just felt like she was a friend in my head and I wanted to become friends with her. So what I do is if I feel connected to a person and feel like this would be someone that I want to have experiences with in my future, whether that be personal or professionally, I'll just figure out ways to provide value to them. And it's not providing value like I'm going to do something for this person and hopes and expectation that they're going to do something for me. It's with zero expectation. Yeah. It's being a cheerleader. It's being so good they can't ignore you. Basically, just like, I'm going to be the biggest cheerleader for a few of these people, and I'm going to not ask them what they need help with. I'm going to figure it out. So usually people that, let's just give an example of people in like the online space or people that are building brands or have courses or events or books or podcasts. There's so many really easy ways to provide value and show up for those people because everybody needs help with something.
Totally.
You're relaunching your podcast. Here's an amazing way that you can all help Kate with her podcast. You can share it. You can share it on stories. You can write a 5-star review, screenshot it and DM it to Kate. Look, I wrote a 5-star review for you. You have a friend that's coming out with a book. Like, I love to buy bulk buys of books and give them to my mastermind members, give them out to people, have piles in my house and give them to people as they come over. And then just share with them, like, listen, I just want to let you know I'm a cheerleader for you and I'm doing things for you. Another way that I connect with people, and we're doing this tonight, and I wish you guys could come. You'll come to the next one.
I'm coming to the next one.
We host dinners. And so what we do is whenever we go to, we used to do this a lot more. We're going to intentionally do it now that we're down here in Florida, is whenever we traveled to a place, we would get a table at a restaurant and invite everybody that we know that we think should know each other and host the party.
It's the best.
And allow people to connect. And the value that we're providing is we're paying for everything. We're paying for the food. No, you don't have to do this, but we do. And we put place cards out and we intentionally put seat people next to other people that we think that they should connect. We allow everybody to stand up and talk and say what they need help with so people can help each other. Yeah, and it's like a
mini mastermind almost.
Totally. It's free. It's on us. It's a dinner. That's the second thing that we do. And then obviously consistently doing the first part, like consistency is very important. You can't just do one thing for somebody and imagine that they're going to be your friend the next day. Like there are people that I've consistently provided value to for years before we actually became friends. And the last one is joining masterminds and groups and going to events intentionally.
Totally.
I spend a ton of time going to events. I'm going to one this weekend where I'm not a speaker. I'm attending for a friend to meet people and connect and also support my friend who's holding the event and all the speakers there and promoting them. And how can you be a cheerleader? And the more that you give, the more that you'll receive. But you can't expect the reciprocity. How do you say it? Reciprocity.
Yeah.
I wanted to say reciprocation, but that is not even
a word. I like
that
one.
You can't expect it. You just have to go in giving. And here's another really important thing to note about energy. And I know if people are listening to this, then you definitely get me. You might not get back from that person. You might not.
Exactly.
You might not. But you will get it back somewhere because energy that goes out comes back.
It does. And I think about some of the folks that I did this with naturally and intuitively in my early days. I was just, again, golden retriever. I was just so genuinely enthusiastic about their work that I was going to invite all my girlfriends to their workshop. I was going to write a blog about it. I was going to do that stuff because I just was. And it had nothing to do with like having any kind of intentionality around it. I just was excited. So it was something I wanted to share. And that ended up totally by accident leading to a lot of friendships and connections. I didn't know it was a strategy. Turned out it was. But I still do that in a non-strategic way just because like enthusiasm is a currency.
Yes.
And we can, and it's free. And we can really spread that around. So I love that. Now, when you're just starting out, you shared about Jonathan Fields, who, also is a connection of mine. He's such a soulful, yummy guy. So his podcast, The Good Life Project, is hugely successful. And you had asked him like why he thought it was so successful. It's one of the top ranking podcasts in probably all categories, but certainly in his own category, he's always in like the top 5.
Yeah.
So what did he say? I first want to know that. And then I have a follow-up question on that.
I remember, so you'll have to remind me what I said exactly in the book, but I remember the conversation that I had with him.
I want to see if you say something different. It doesn't matter what you said in the book.
I might. He said to me that people asked him like, well, how did you become successful so fast? And he's like, I didn't become successful so fast. I've been doing this podcast for like 11 years or something crazy. And it didn't take off until like year 7. And that's why that goes back to comparing your chapter 1. Like people now, and I talk to a lot of people who are starting their podcast now. It's so exciting. Like everyone's like, okay, I'm starting my podcast. I want to reach 1 million subscribers by month 3. And I'm like, these podcasts that we're fans of that are huge and major and have actually have really dialed in messaging and really great guests, they didn't start off that way. Jonathan had been doing his podcast for 7 years and not a lot of people were paying attention in the beginning. It's consistency with everything. Is that what you were hoping I'd say? There might be something else.
I never really hope you say anything, but that was what you said in the book.
Okay, good. Sometimes we forget. I wrote that book a year ago.
Well, it's so funny. Sometimes people will interview me about a book and be like, so can you tell me more about like what you said in chapter 3? And I'm like, I literally...
No.
No, like, can you give me a little more context? No, but I'm curious, what is your advice for people who are in year 1, 2, 3, where it feels like it's taking a really freaking long time? And I've had students say, like, how do I know when this isn't just when maybe this just isn't my path, because like it's not quote unquote working. So when do I know if I should keep going or if I should throw in the towel? And I'm curious what your tips are on patience and just sticking with it when maybe the metrics aren't there, because not everything takes off like a hockey stick spike.
No, I was
Most
talking about
things don't.
No, I was talking about patience this morning, and this is something I'm really thinking about lately, and it's not a fully fleshed out thought, so I'm talking about it here for the first time.
Love
so
it.
Forgive me, but this will just be something that we can talk about as we go through the year. I've been thinking about patience a lot because a lot of people say, I want it to happen so fast. I want it to happen so fast. I'm like, why do you want it to happen so fast? So that you can go have the next goal? Because here's the thing, once we've hit, so let's say we're starting our podcast and let's say your goal is to hit 1 million subscribers. Okay, if you hit 1 million subscribers in the first month, you celebrate for 5 minutes and then you set the next goal for 1.5 million.
Yeah.
So you're just going to go to the next one. So for me, I'm actually like, what if I could enjoy elongating the process with what's going on in the health space? Like, we're all going to live for a long time. We have plenty of time. Like,
so
God
true.
willing,
our
like
lives are going to just get longer and longer.
So much time. And if we get to our goals too fast, we didn't learn all the lessons that we needed to get there. The joy is really in the journey. And I know that for me to be true, because I've gotten a lot of things that were my goals. And the goal that I got, like, let's say like that book, like, okay, I'm holding the book and I'm like, yay, for 2 seconds. The real joys came when I was like, I finished the proposal. Oh my God, yes, next step. Okay. Oh, we changed the title. This is so fun and cool. Oh my God, Gabby said she's going to write the foreword. It's all those little things, the excitement, the anticipation, the book is coming out, the launch, the things that I'm planning. And then it's like the actual moment is like, all right, now what's the next book? So the faster you get to the win, the faster it's like, oh, okay, that little journey's over. Now we got to, and the growth keeps just getting bigger. So it's like, why do you want it to happen that fast? That's the question that I want these people to ask themselves.
It is a good question. Why do you want that? What do you think it's going to get you that you don't have now? Because most of the time we're just so conditioned that like more visibility is better and more money is better. And we haven't asked ourselves why. And we haven't asked, and then we're just like chasing those goals and wondering why, as we get more, we don't feel any more complete, any more satisfied. Have you had any of those moments? I mean, you've been a public person for a while now. I don't know how many years, but like it seems like it's been a while. Have you, and you've been successful financially in your companies. So have you had those moments? And if you haven't, that's, you just say no. But if there's any stories of those moments of like having achieved something that you thought was going to be it for you, and then it wasn't. And if so, what did you do? Or have your goals around like visibility and money shifted as you've gotten more established, as you've gotten to be more in alignment with who's on the outside is matching who's on the inside?
Yeah, I'm really trying to think to a moment where it was like, oh, I really wanted that thing and I got it and it wasn't as good as what I thought, I guess.
Or if it felt different than you expected.
Yeah,
even if it wasn't, maybe it was as good, but it was just like, oh, I thought it was going to be like this, but it's actually really like this. And perhaps publishing a book was like that. I don't know.
It totally was like that.
Yeah.
So I did so many when I was like wonder walks. I'm putting myself there right now when I was pitching the proposal to publishers and I wanted the book deal so bad. And I was just like, all I want is a book deal. If I just get this book deal, my whole life is going to be amazing. Like I've never felt a desire so deep. Like I wanted it. It was weird because that desire was like, that reminds me of like when I wanted Wedding Singer, like when I wanted that role in the Broadway show. Those were two very, very similar. That's another one we can come back to.
Yeah.
Desires that I had. And I remember going for wonder walks where I would put on a song and I would be like, I'm a published author, and envision holding my book in my hand and like the joy that I would feel being a published author. And I would just feel elated. And on those wonder walks, I felt way more elated than I did now that I'm looking at the book. And I'm just going to be totally honest.
I love it.
So one of my words of the year this year is anticipation. And the reason that I chose that word is because I have found that I get so much more joy in the anticipation of the thing than I do in getting the thing.
Well, that's what the data shows.
Yes.
It's every single person on the planet is like that. The anticipation gives us more joy than the thing itself.
So why can't we just enjoy the anticipation
So why
a little
can't
bit
we
more?
just be anticipating all the time?
All the time.
I love that. That's
Right?
great.
All the time.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So there you go.
I know you mentioned the Wonder Walks before, but can you just like say more?
Yeah.
Because it's so good and super fun.
I created them on accident. So when I lived in New York, I hate saying I lived in New York, but this was a month ago. I lived in New York for 17
You know
years.
what? I just, as somebody who moved from the North to South Florida, I had a lot of grief about it. And I know you're in those early days. And I just was reminded by somebody, they were like, it's not going anywhere.
Yes.
So if you change your mind, you can go back, or you can have a house both places. So I'm just letting you know.
And both. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel better already. It's funny because I went back to New York a couple weeks ago and I was like, I miss Florida. So who knows? I'm just a crazy person.
We're all like that.
New York was a very big part of my life. And when I was starting to really get into personal development in a big way for the first time, I started just going on these long walks, listening to podcasts. And this is when I was single and I was actively trying to manifest my partner. I was like, I am going to do an experiment and I'm going to manifest my husband. So instead of going out to the club with my girlfriends or like going out to dinner with them on Saturday nights, I would take the subway all the way downtown and I would put on my headphones and I would just walk the city, envisioning that I was walking alongside my husband. So I would envision that we were walking together and I would either have podcasts playing or music playing and I would just be like so in love, like we're back from a date night, and I would really embody it. It would be the best walk ever. Like I was legitimately, and I would do it all the time because it felt good. It
So
was
good for your biochemistry, honestly, like youthful and vitality.
It was just, it was
So
living
good.
in anticipation.
No, it's really good. Yeah.
In anticipating him. And actually what I was doing was subconsciously preparing myself for him to arrive.
Absolutely.
Right? And I was doing this all the time.
Also programming your reticular activation system to even see him when he arrived, because 9 times out of 10, women are like, all the good ones are taken, men are schmucks. So like when a prince or king walks across their path, they wouldn't even see him.
Yep.
So,
And I was subconsciously looking for him because I was like going on walks
So
with him
great.
every single day.
I love it.
So I would do that. And I would do that for lots of things. Once I started doing it for Chris and then I met Chris, I was like, I'm going to do this for everything. I love this.
Yeah.
So I would just start going, and I still do them, like walks along the water. I lived right on the Hudson River in New York. And now I'm doing it along the water by the ocean in Miami, where it's just like, okay, who do I want to be and how can I be her right now? And it's like practicing being the person that I want to be, because we can all embody that. The interesting thing about the mind, and I know you know all about this, is like we can feel all the feelings that we want to feel now. We don't need to wait until we get the thing.
We do not.
We can feel them now. Like the thing that I always find really interesting, and I know I can talk about this on this podcast, is like you can make yourself have an orgasm with your mind. So
Wild.
You can make your body feel a certain way with your mind. So that means that if you want $1 million, why do you want the $1 million? You want the $1 million because of the way that it's going to make you feel, the freedom that you'll have to be able to go to any restaurant or any grocery store, buy whatever you want, go walk in, buy whatever you want. You want that freedom. So what if you were to just create that freedom feeling right now, even if it's just for a 20-minute walk? Yeah. So I love doing that. It's my moment. And I tap into gratitude. I pray. Like it's my wonder walk. It's my peace.
So good. I love this tip because so many people say like act as if, right? Mm-hmm. But the specificity of going on a walk as that person it's time bound. It's something we can all do. We know if we're doing it or not. It's great. It's a great
love
tip.
it. It's it's so fun.
I love that. I had a second question about that. We were talking about manifesting your husband. I don't know. Okay. As one becomes more seen, there are more requests.
Yes.
There are more opportunities. And at many junctures in my life, I have had to have a come to Jesus with myself and be like, Kate, there's not going to be a moment when like suddenly the things being asked of you are going to be less interesting. They're only going to get better. So this is a discipline I'm cultivating in myself around discernment, around time, and saying yes and saying no. And I'm curious, we're heading into a new year. Do you have any boundaries, guidelines, decision matrices, anything that you use to determine what you say yes to and what you say no to? Because a secondary quote unquote problem, but really it's beautiful, of being more seen is that people ask you to do more things and you get better and better opportunities.
Yeah. I'm learning this right now. So this is like in the moment. I don't know. I don't have it all figured out. But here's what I do when I'm trying to decide, because being a good decision maker, I think, is like the number one quality of a good leader.
Yes.
Like if you look at Jeff Bezos, like the only thing he talks about is like, I want Amazon to be the fastest, best decision making company in the world, because making fast, good decisions for yourself is empowering as hell.
And it saves so much time.
So much time. And I find that a lot of us just live in fear of making the wrong decision and overanalyze, analysis paralysis, and then you're stuck. And then you're not moving at all. So I always say like indecision stops manifestation, stops creation. So I'm like, how can I make this decision fast? Because usually what I'll do is I'll put it to the side. I'll decide later. I don't know what to do. I'll decide later. But then it's always hanging over your head and you always have that negative energy. You just want to make the decision. And then I also believe that there's no such thing as a wrong decision. You might not get the outcome that you want.
Yeah.
True. You might not. You might have to learn a hell of a lot of lessons. But maybe those lessons were supposed to be learned and you needed to make that quote unquote wrong decision. So it ended up being the right one. Anyways, the way that I make a decision on if I should do something or not, and I had to do this the other day, so I'm glad we're talking about this, is I ask myself, what would future Jen be proud of me for doing? Because I'm making decisions not for me now. I'm making decisions for me in the future. So if there's two opportunities that I'm weighing, I think about future Jen. Who is she? Like I went on a wonder walk with her yesterday. I know who she is. I know what she's doing. I know what the person that she is. I know what her values are. What is she really proud of me for saying no to? And there were two decisions there was a decision I had to decide the other day between like a really big opportunity or a smaller opportunity, but being there for a friend. And I had two voices in my head. I had one voice that was like other people in my life telling me what to do. Oh, you should really do. And it wasn't my voice. And then I had my voice saying, be a good friend. And then I asked myself, whose voice is telling me to do it and whose voice is telling me not to do it? And usually, if it's not your voice, it's fear of what other people will think of you for the decision that you're making. And then I asked myself, which decision would future Jen be proud of me for making? And it was definitely to be there for a friend.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. I made a similar decision recently.
Really?
Yeah. And, because so many, I love the part where you talked about like all the different ways that fear masquerades. And sometimes it's actually like we can have a physical sensation of fear, but sometimes it's all this other stuff that shows up. And one of them is FOMO.
Yeah.
Which does have the word fear in it, but
yeah.
However, that feeling of like, oh, if I don't say yes to this is the only chance I'll get. And I've had two relatively recent scenarios in which I chose the less shiny thing, even though I had a shred of FOMO about the shiny thing, but I chose the thing that was like truer to my soul. It was like a less sexy choice.
Yeah.
And both times, very quickly, within 24 hours, something even better came that like was more aligned timing wise. So it's been cool to see how like the universe will show up. And I mean, I don't think it's like necessarily a reward system, but it feels like I'm being given this opportunity to be proven like, hey, there is no such thing as missing out on what's for you. Like, and you've just chosen to be aligned with your soul, and therefore we're going to show you that there's only even more opportunities where they come from. You know?
Well, every opportunity attracts another opportunity that's similar to it. So if you follow down a path that is aligned with who you are and what you really want and your true values and what you truly believe in, you will get bigger and more opportunities in that direction. If you go the other way, same thing will happen.
100%, which is why there's no such thing as a wrong decision.
Yep.
Okay, so I have two more questions for you. Number one, what are you embodying in terms of Jen 2.0 in your Wonder Walks these days? What are you calling in? Is it a feeling? Is it a particular accomplishment? Whatever you feel like sharing.
Yeah. So there's 2 words of the year this year. One's anticipation, leaning into that a little bit more, and the other one's evolution. And it's leaning into evolving into whatever I'm supposed to evolve into and embracing evolution instead of staying like, oh no, it has to be done this way. I have to do it this way. What is the evolution of me, and how can I allow that to be seen to myself, to other people, and allowing things in? Right now, I'm definitely in a place of like, okay, book number 1 is done. So now it's like, okay, what's the next thing, the next idea? And I know that for me, I'm very open about this. The real goal, what I always see myself doing, and what I definitely like know that like I'm the happiest when I'm doing it, is stages and speaking on stages. And that is what I love to do more than anything. Since I was 2 years old, like that's what I was doing.
Great.
It's just in me. When it's in you, it's in you.
When you're a performer, you're a performer.
It can't go away. And if you're not doing it for long enough, I start to get physically sick. Like I'm like, I miss my stage. So it's always leading towards that. But it's like, how can I show up in a different way? How can I evolve more? How can I be more creative, show more of myself, create better experiences for my audiences, and have more opportunities like that, and whatever that means. And I'm trying to just take my hand off of like the steering wheel a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very controlling type of person organically. So my goal is to just allow a little bit more.
I love that.
Thanks.
I love that. Okay. And we really didn't touch on money much, but I am curious. A question I like to ask is, if you were to go back in time and give your like 20 to 22-year-old self a piece of money insight or wisdom that you would want her to know, what would you tell her?
Ooh, I need them all now. No, I'm not a money expert at all. I would probably tell like my 20 or 22-year-old self back then, like, become an entrepreneur now. Like, figure out what kind of business you can start, like, to just do what you're really good at and get paid for it. I wish that I did that then and started like flexing those muscles, because even like if I think about 22-year-olds now, like how many like 22-year-olds could be like social media, like content creators, and like, oh my gosh, like come here and run production here and do things like that. Like if you started like your own business when you're 22, imagine how far along you would be by the time you're 30.
Totally. As long as you're saving money.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
But either way,
but
learn.
Also, you're right, because
learn
you
how to
have
make money.
The asset
so
of
much time.
All the education and the visibility or the skill set.
I did not learn how to become an entrepreneur until I was forced to, and I started my personal training business, and I started learning how to sell and learning how to market. And if I learned how to do all those things, whether I saved the money or not, I learned those skills when I was younger. Oh my God, by the time I was 30, like I would be unstoppable, and then I would learn how to save money.
Yeah, totally.
You have plenty of time.
Because there's always more where that came from.
Yeah.
I love that. So if people want to connect with you, what is the best place to do that? Where should they go? What do you have coming up?
Yes. So Instagram is the best place to go. I'm always there every morning, Monday through Friday. I go live. Just follow me there.
With her cute little headband. It
Yes,
almost
it
looks
is
like you have bunny ears.
My cow headband has become a thing, and now it can't go away. I have to find where I bought that. I don't even know. I got to get more. We've got an event coming up. So this will come out before the event. It's in May. It's called Build Your Brand Live. Awesome. Big major event, going to be in Atlanta. Oh, yeah. So if you want tickets for that, just DM me. It's me in the DMs. So DM me and I'll send you a link.
Okay, I love it. And your Instagram is Jen Gottlieb.
At Jen_Gottlieb.
Yep, perfect. It'll all be linked in the show notes, so you can go find all the things.
I'm looking at. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and your time, and you're just quite refreshing and fun.
How great is this life that we get to have like our first real friend conversation doing a podcast? Like, this is amazing. Like, we just go deep right away. I love this.
That's how we roll on Plenty.
So fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I have to tell you, being with Jen was absolutely refreshing. I love the Wonder Walks. I love the tips about connecting with people. So many practical tips. And I really recommend you get a copy of Be Seen. At the top of the episode, I talked about how much I loved it. I was not just blowing smoke up Jen's skirt. I really, really loved this book. So get yourself a copy, connect in all the places. And of course, if you liked this episode, if you found something useful, take the link and text it to a friend. Let them know what was helpful about it for you and what you think they're going to get out of it. And of course, if you like Plenty, please subscribe, leave us a review, let us know what you're thinking about it. And I can't wait to have you on the next episode. Woohoo! You made it to the end of an episode of Plenty. Don't you feel expanded already? So if you liked this episode, go ahead and leave us a review. Subscribe to the podcast. Text a friend and let them know they need to listen in. That helps us spread the word so more people can experience Plenty together. And if you want to ease your path to creating wealth, I created a money breakthrough guide for you where I interviewed over 20 of my high earning women friends. And I asked them what their biggest money breakthrough guide was. And the responses were so mind blowing and helpful, I knew I needed to pass them along to you. This is the kind of thing that is often only shared behind closed doors, but now you can access it totally for free. So head over to katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs and get the guide. Again, that's katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs. And I'll see you next time for Plenty.